Few stories in the world of cinematic tales of defiance and resilience have the same profound impact as Papillon. This film follows the incredible journey of Henri Charrière, a man determined to break free from the confines of his imprisonment and reclaim his freedom against the backdrop of the most brutal prison conditions imaginable. Charrière's unwavering resolve and smart intellect are formidable rivals to his captor's oppressive forces in an environment intended to immobilize the human spirit. Character info. Henri Charrière, the main character of Papillon, is a fascinating example of determination, trickery, and unwavering spirit. The gifted actor Charlie Hunnam portrays Charrière, whose character experiences a profound transition amid his terrible imprisonment. Charrière is initially shown as an adventurous and free-spirited person living on the edge in 1930s France. He goes by the nickname Papillon because of a butterfly tattoo on his chest. But after being wrongfully convicted of murder and given a life sentence in the infamous French Guiana prison colony of Devil's Island, his life takes an abrupt turn. The beginning. The movie opens with a scene that takes viewers to the colorful streets of Paris in the 1930s, where the bustle of the city contrasts sharply with the dark clouds of impending chaos. Henri Charrière, an active and carefree young man, whose contagious charm and carefree attitude make him a fascinating figure in the busy Montmartre district, is introduced to us against this backdrop of life in full swing. We get glimpses of Charrière's enticing personality and boundless enthusiasm for life as the camera follows him through Paris. He enjoys the simple joys of companionship and camaraderie, laughing and arguing passionately over glasses of wine with friends. Charrière's fate takes a sharp and tragic turn against this unsettling background. Trapped in a web of fraud and unfounded allegations, Charrière is wrongfully found guilty of murder and given a life sentence in the infamous Devil's Island prison. Papillon's once carefree manner is replaced by the weight of his unfair sentence weighs heavily on him. He is determined to overcome all obstacles and regain his freedom at any cost. Turning point. Dangerous criminals are imprisoned in the prison on the remote island, where they are not even permitted to move. The story begins in 1931 when a man by the name of Papillon successfully breaks through a safe and escapes the scene of the crime. He then makes his way through the busy streets of Paris and enters the Moulin Rouge cabaret, where he meets the boss of the French mafia and turns over the stolen jewels. The client smiled, but he threatened to deal with the intruder if he betrayed him. After that, Papillon runs into his beloved Nanette, a cabaret dancer, to whom he gives a necklace that was taken from the safe and makes the diamonds hidden clear. Nothing seems to be able to ruin the couple's night together as they indulge in alcohol consumption in each other's company. However, the following morning, police officers break into the couple's apartment and take Papillon into custody for the murder of a Moulin Rouge pimp. Despite having an alibi, the safecracker believes he was set up after witnessing the victim being beaten by mafia thugs yesterday. Papillon is sent to prison. When Nanette sees her partner, he assures her that he will figure out a way out. Hearing them speak, Joël Grins, Papillon's cellmate, overhears and remarks that a successful escape will need a large sum of money. Following a medical examination, all prisoners are told they are being shipped to the infamous Devil's Island prison colony in French Guiana. This horrible place is infamous for its impregnability. No one has ever managed to escape from it alive. While traveling to the island by ship, Papillon makes the acquaintance of Louis Degas, a skilled counterfeiter. After discovering that his new friend possesses money that other prisoners are yearning for, the safecracker suggests a collaboration. Degas didn't agree to it in the beginning. New challenges. Overnight, things happen that cause him to rethink his decision. When two prisoners ruthlessly attack the prisoner who is sleeping next to Degas, slashing his abdomen to extract hidden money, Degas awakens. The counterfeit is horrified to learn that he might be the next victim and offers Papillon a bargain to keep him alive. "I'll underride whatever escape you can arrange until I'm set up on the island." While agreeing, Papillon cautions Degas that he plans to break out of the prison by himself. A large, towering prisoner approaches Degas as dawn draws near and waves a knife. Papillon breaks off his intended criminal act with a decisive lunge at him. He covers that person with a sheet as he attacks with great force in an attempt to break the resistance. Once the prisoners have been examined, The guards decide to step in and put gas into the cell to break up the fight, which causes the inmates to become frightened. They chose to penalize Papillon after concluding that he had participated in the fight. The ship eventually makes touchdown on the island around dawn. During the midnight fight, Jess, who was able to cover up a knife, cuts his leg severely and has to be taken to the hospital. As the remaining prisoners are brought to the colony, they receive a welcome from the senior warden of the horrifying jail, who tells the new arrivals that there will be punishment if anyone tries to escape, and even if you manage to escape, you'll get shot by the guards. As soon as Papillon gets there, he works to make valuable contacts inside the prison. While the more civilized Degas prefers to have polite discussions with another prisoner about the same issue, the safecracker approaches the prison guard in an attempt to help him land a job in the infirmary. Despite their differing tactics, the same result is achieved. The terms for each of the men are $1,000. Reluctantly, the newcomers accept the deal, but they demand a notebook for Degas and an extra block of cigarettes in exchange. When the prisoners awaken the following morning, they hear gunshots and shouts from the guards. Papillon is optimistic that Jess will soon be free because he somehow managed to escape the hospital. Despite being assigned to work in the hospital, Degas and Papillon's luck is not in their favor. The deputy warden recognizes Degas and tells him that his son-in-law has been arrested for using a fake bond. At the warden's order, the prisoners are sent to the zero routes, where they will have to perform challenging manual labor in the mine. The partners provide the notebook and the promised cigarettes. Papillon steals a drawing of his beloved from Degas during a break. The counterfeiter deeply thinks that his wife can get him out of jail, but Papillon discourages him from believing that since she is now free with the money, it is unlikely that she would give it up to save her husband while pushing a cart of stones. When Degas strains, a money-filled hidden probe comes out of his body. After telling his partner, Papillon rushes to look for the money on the ground. Fortunately, he finds it before the guards do. Afterward, Degas apologizes for his prior arrogance and thanks his partner for the help. Papillon meets Charrière, a prisoner, during his lunchtime meal. The men talk about their lives before deciding to become criminals. With the promise that he can arrange for a boat to take them back to the prison, Charrière offers the new acquaintance an alliance. A local pimp who brings women to the island is picked up by the guards. He's approached by Papillon, who proposes to him an offer of $2,000 if he can get him a boat. After the work shift, the partners take a shower. During this time, Degas is attacked by other prisoners once more. Although he manages to evade them, he still takes multiple strong blows. The person sets his price at $5,000 and tells them he will stay on the island for 3 more weeks. When Degas tries to speak with his partner, Papillon screams at him, angry that Degas' helplessness forces him to risk his life every time. After realizing that his chances of surviving until the appeal is nil, a shaken Degas turns to Papillon and makes a request. Consequently, he begs his partner to accompany him on the boat so that the two of them can leave the island together. Papillon refuses, believing that Degas, with his delicate nature, won't survive the harsh sea conditions. He thought more than a partner, he would be a burden in this escape mission. The inmates are all brought to the courtyard the following day to watch the public execution of Jess, who was unable to escape. The warden gives Papillon and Degas the order to carry the victim's body into the jungle following the execution. Unable to control his emotions, Degas stops and disobeys the guard's orders as the red liquid seeps through his clothes from Jess's severed neck during the ride. The guard begins brutally beating Degas for his disobedience, and Papillon comes at him from behind, striking him in the head with a stone. Taking advantage of that chance, Papillon decides to try his first escape by going into the middle of the jungle. The guards try to find him while Degas is returned to prison. As darkness falls, Papillon reaches the shelter of the pimp by the river. When he arrives at the island, the person who had promised to get him off the island laughs at him, and then armed guards appear out of the dense jungle that encircles Papillon. With a cruel smile, that person declares that the warden is willing to pay twice as much for the return, regardless of the reward offered. After that, Papillon is taken to see the prison's chief warden, who informs him of his forthcoming punishment. The escapee will be moved to a different island and kept in isolation for 2 years. Such punishments are mainly meant to break the convict's will and destroy any chance of escape. Papillon, alone and facing his destiny, makes an effort to keep his cool. Following several days of starvation, a significant amount of rations is delivered to him, which he enthusiastically consumes. Later, the guard he just stoned comes to visit him in the cell, seeking revenge. The guard mockingly declares that the prisoner will not make it through the rest of his sentence while brutally beating him. Even in the face of threats and violent blows, all he does is smile and hint at his wish for silence while in solitary confinement. The guard, who feels that the prisoner is beginning to lose his mind, is irritated by his response and leaves the cell. The solo voyage and individual struggle. Papillon discovers a coconut and a message from Degas in the water bucket the following day. Miraculously, his partner gets access to the rations and promises to keep providing food assistance. Degas' unexpected show of support gives Papillon strength, and he starts doing intense exercises to stay in shape, despite his difficult surroundings. When one day guard finds a double portion in the ration bucket that he was about to give, he reports the matter to the seniors. Papillon gets confronted by the warden, who demands to know who is giving him the coconuts. But the prisoner doesn't say anything, refusing to turn on Degas, and as a result, his ration is reduced by half. After the tortuous months, Papillon becomes a living skeleton with eyes that are blank and sagging skin. He wanders around his cell aimlessly, as if he had given up on life. When the warden returns, he offers him a sizable amount of rations in exchange for disclosing the supplier. Papillon gives the food a detached glance before shoving a spoonful of soup into the warden's mouth. The man gives the order to step up the punishment, which includes keeping the prisoner in total darkness till the end of his sentence. To maintain his sanity, Papillon delves into memories of his happy life with Nanette in Paris. Hallucinations blend in with shattered memories. Papillon experiences a great deal. Papillon accepts a cigarette from Degas' companion and takes an enjoyable drag. The Papillon couldn't help but unlock the safe that appeared on the cell door when it appeared. Recollections of how easily he used to solve challenges like these in the past, finding the correct code, resurface. A sudden revelation comes to Papillon, symbolizing a successful safe cracking in his tormented consciousness. When the guards discover the prisoner unconscious the following day, they take him to the infirmary. It turns out that the warden's finances are currently being handled by the smart Degas, who was able to earn his trust during this period. When he finds out that his friend is in the hospital, he visits him right away. When Degas finds Papillon, he is undernourished and has a dead look in his eyes. Degas apologizes profusely for the pain Papillon went through because of him. In response to this confession, Degas reveals that Papillon was correct when he said that his wife would betray him. With a sly smile, Papillon remarks negatively about Degas' partner. When Degas realizes that his friend is merely experiencing a moment of insanity, he shines with happiness and wonders why Papillon didn't turn on him to spare him the painful penalty. Although Papillon acknowledges that on specifically tiring days he had these kinds of thoughts, he also knows that Degas wouldn't be able to handle the consequences that would result from his confession. If they can get off the island, he tells his friend, he is going to completely change his life. Degas tells Papillon that local politicians will be visiting the prison on Sunday. The warden plans to give them a grand reception and show a movie in the prison yard, which will break down the prison's perimeter security and increase security around the guests. This is an excellent opportunity to get out of it all. Papillon suggests asking for Charrière's help because he has the contacts needed to get a boat. With a crazy expression, Papillon suddenly shoves Degas aside and tells him to go, while his friend tells the guards to settle down. Calm pills are given to the agitated Papillon, who discreetly hides them. Papillon secretly exits the hospital during the night and sees a guard abusing a fellow prisoner. When the prisoner is by himself, Papillon approaches him and makes a proposal. He tells him about the escape plan and promises him a place on the boat in exchange for his assistance on Sunday night in diverting the guard. As this is going on, Degas involves Charrière in the scheme, who purposefully hurts himself to gain entry to the hospital where the conspiring parties meet to talk about the scheme. However, Degas seems uncomfortable putting Papillon aside and shows uncertainty about Charrière's dependability. But Papillon assures him that there's nothing to worry about, because their shared objective is to get out of imprisonment as fast as possible. Degas gives Papillon cash in exchange for a matchbox with sedatives. In exchange, Papillon gives his friend the order to quickly return to the warden's office after sliding the pills to the guards. A fellow prisoner snatches the box from Degas and attacks him. Degas bites the attacker's hand in a desperate attempt to block a punch to the face. Degas is busy with paperwork for the warden, so the guards tell the prisoner to leave him alone. The final showdown. When Sunday night comes, the conspirators start carrying out their plan while the guards are busy hosting important visitors. Degas subtly mixes a sleeping pill with a bottle of alcoholic beverages, hands it to the security officer, calls the hospital guard, and advises them to head to a private area. Taking metal legs out of their beds, Papillon and Charrière use them to attack the guard who is about to carry out a violent action. The conspirators easily slip past the guards who are sleeping and gesture to Degas, who is stuck in the yard serving drinks to the politicians. All of the guests are forced to return inside the building as a sudden downpour starts and the outside lights go out. Papillon is told by Charrière to leave Degas and save himself, but he won't go without his friend. When Papillon does at last join the group, he exclaims with joy that he has taken the watchtower keys, using the darkness to allow them to leave the prison secretly. The conspirators climb the tower and alternately leap down, carrying out their plan. Degas lands clumsily, seriously injuring his leg, and needs to be carried by Papillon and the other person. The conspirators enter the deep jungle and find themselves surrounded by armed people. Believing that their time is running out, they discover that the people going after them are Charrière's accomplices. Papillon gives them the money in exchange for telling him where the boat is. When the escaped convicts eventually manage to sail away from the evil island, they are met with an unpleasant surprise. Their makeshift boat is full of holes and the men must constantly bail water. Charrière advises throwing injured Degas overboard after informing Papillon that the rundown boat cannot support 4 passengers. Ignoring his words, Papillon and the others spend several more difficult hours at sea. As a storm approaches under the scorching heat, Charrière grabs a knife and demands that they get rid of Degas. The other prisoner tries to put the weapon away, but the enemy tosses him overboard. Tensions among the inmates reach a breaking point. Papillon attempts to strike as well, but he is unable to hold off the more powerful opponent. This time, Degas has to intervene to protect his friend as Charrière begins strangling his victim. Grabbing the knife, he drives it deep into his neck. Degas loses control and attacks Charrière until he is no longer breathing. Papillon dives into the water to assist Machette in getting back into the boat. Gathering his damp drawings, Degas quietly replaces them in the folder. While the 3 make an effort to withstand the dangerous storm, it destroys their boat and sends them into the dark. Aftermath. When Papillon wakes up in a beachside bungalow, he rushes outside and runs into a nun who tells him they washed ashore at a monastery on an island in Colombia. It is stated by the woman that she is aware of the story of the uninvited guests. When Papillon locates Degas, he informs him that they must depart right now. His friend, who is still bitter about what happened, won't accompany him. While trying to find a way off the island, Papillon runs into Colombian officers. He returns to the shore and tries to flee with Degas, but they are caught very quickly. Machette flees in fear, only to be mercilessly shot down. Following his second failed attempt at escape, Papillon is sentenced to 5 years of solitary confinement. Upon his release, he has the appearance of a weak, elderly man. When the warden first sees the prisoner, he shows contempt and asks, "What were you living for?" in response to his extraordinary willpower. When Papillon doesn't answer the question, the warden assigns him to one of the Devil's Island prisons. He finds his old friend Degas among the slightly insane other prisoners he meets upon arrival. He asks his friend to take him to the ocean, where he spends a long time taking in the sea air and staring at the endless water. He tells Degas about his new escape plan when he wakes his partner up at night. He saw that they might be carried directly to the mainland by the strong currents surrounding the island. The waves will take care of the rest. All they have to do is construct a raft. To ensure safety during the cliff dive, Degas backs his plan and assists in gathering coconuts for the raft. At the last minute, he decides to stay on the island because he has become used to prison life and is sure his friend won't be able to protect him once they leave the island. He tells Papillon this. The friends say goodbye. Papillon descends fearlessly and makes it out alive. gazing upon him from the edge of the cliff. Degas shouts, "Victory!" in celebration of his friend. Papillon happily floats with the current after climbing onto the raft. After his third successful escape, he is now free. After several decades, Papillon writes memoirs about his experiences in the terrible prison and his escape attempts. He sends the memoirs to the publisher together with a drawing of a butterfly that Degas did solely for him.